Welcome to the Value Builder Podcast, where we focus on real estate with a value-add mindset. Real strategies, real operators, real outcomes. Let's dive in.
So welcome Value Builder community. Today I have Tzvi Weiser. He's joining us from Jerusalem and his middle name is LLC on LinkedIn. So you probably know already he's an expert in LLC formation and all the complexities. Tzvi is a senior LLC specialist with a JD MBA and decades of business experience. He's a former New York attorney with accounting background who helps real estate investors, syndicators, and CPAs and entrepreneurs navigate complex LLC formation. I read somewhere that Forbes magazine called LLC formation and compliance one of the most misunderstood aspects of business, and that's really dangerous for investors. You can incorporate the wrong way, and it can cost you dearly at the end if it's not done correctly. So my goal today is to tap in knowledge of Tzvi's, and hopefully by the end of it, we're going to get a lot of clarity for people. So Tzvi, let's start with a simple question, which actually comes in a lot of times to my mind or investor who are starting commercial real estate. Everyone talks about Delaware, Wyoming, Nevada. They say sexy states supposed to be tax advantages, obviously benefits, but we're talking not Blackstone. A medium-sized syndicator. I know there are many avenues, but typically, which states we should incorporate. On my end, most of the time, I would incorporate, let's say, if a property is in Tennessee, I incorporate Tennessee LLC. But we talk about Delaware and Nevada, so can you just start from there and just give a little more clarity on that aspect?
Absolutely. First of all, thanks, Saul, for having me here. It's great to be here today. And thank you for diving into probably one of the most misunderstood concepts about LLCs. So there are a couple of different types of LLCs. And the truth is, there's only one type of LLC. From our perspective, you sign up, you have an LLC. When we talk about different LLCs, they're how you use them. Not necessarily, there's nothing different mechanically about any LLC. They're all the same. So what you're talking about is this confusion between asset holding companies, the one that actually holds the asset, and then holding companies, which are business entities that hold all the asset, the title holding companies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you're in a business deal, when you're in a real estate deal, as you said, if you're in Tennessee, you don't just get to pick that I want to have a Wyoming LLC having a Tennessee property. That doesn't work. The idea of an LLC is that if you do business in a state, every state gets to regulate their own commerce. And if you do business in a state, you need to register with them in order to use their court system in order to be able to do business in that state. So if you want to have a Wyoming LLC and own property in Tennessee, you cannot access the Tennessee court system, which is where everything will be adjudicated whenever you have problems. So you're up the creek because you have a property without a court. So the first thing you have to do is when you have an asset is have an LLC in that state. So you'll have your Tennessee LLC, and now you can do business in LLC in Tennessee. Where does the Wyoming company come in? The Wyoming LLC comes in because an LLC is really an alter ego. An LLC means it's not me, leave me alone. Saul, I'm a good guy. I didn't mess with anybody. I don't owe anybody money. Leave me alone. Go talk to the LLC, bring all your problems, take the LLC to the shrink, leave me home. I got nothing to do with this. So what we want to do is we want to separate you from your LLCs. We want to separate your home, your yacht, your car. I don't know if you have a yacht, but if you have one, you definitely want to separate it from your LLC and keep that like that. Now, the question is, Tennessee and certain states aren't so nice when it comes to protecting the owners from LLCs, and they'll pierce the veil. They'll do all sorts of things that will give you trouble. So what you want to do is you want to go to a nice, comfortable state and set up an LLC over there that will be the owner of the Tennessee LLC. The reason why this works, we have to distinguish between passive and active business. When you're passive, so I'm an investor. I'm not doing business in your LP. He's not doing business in Tennessee. Your LP does not need a Tennessee LLC. He can come with his Wyoming LLC or his New Mexico or Nevada or Delaware or whatever he wants, invest in that business. And the same with you. When you have a Tennessee property, you can make the investor you can have an investing entity at LLC that invests in that Tennessee property, that owns that Tennessee property in any state you want, because from the holding company perspective, you are no different than then an LP, then,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can do whatever you want. And this is how you separate, you cover your bases, you slide in your comfortable LLC, your good LLC, your Wyoming LLC between your bad LLC and your yacht. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's what it's all about. LLCs are really what they are firewalls. And we know that a good firewall system divides and conquers everything.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So when you're naming bad LLC, it's just only special purpose entity LLC that holds the title. And then,
Exactly.
the operating LLC would be Wyoming, Nevada, or whatever that's friendly
The holding, not operating, the holding.
holding.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And so
So your Wyoming LLC is the investor, your Tennessee LLC is your operator.
operator makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Got you. So right now, Nevada, Wyoming, and Delaware, are there any like rule of thumbs, which one to choose, or that just
Absolutely.
the attorney's prerogative, or which one is better? Let's say we're talking about real estate audience, right? Which one is more advantageous?
Right. So the question is what type of LLC you're setting up. If you're a syndicator, you
Mm-hmm.
want to be in Delaware for two reasons. First of all, if you want to attract capital, you want to attract it to a Delaware LLC. People understand that. That's the IBM, the blue chip LLC. And people are comfortable investing when you have a Delaware LLC. If you were to raise money through a Wyoming company, people would raise eyebrows like, Wyoming? What's going on over here? What's he doing with my money? Where's he running away to? Wyoming is the Swiss bank account of LLCs.
Mm,
So for you personally, for all your wealth and for your holdings, Wyoming is great. But if you want to set up a business, you want to set it up in Delaware.
mm,
Now, because again, the courts are great. The lenders all want you to be in Delaware. In Delaware, they have a special court that deals only with business cases. So these judges, when they get a business case, they've adjudicated this 100 times before. And every lawyer knows exactly what the outcome is going to be when you go to a Delaware court. When you go to Wyoming court, you'll have a guy wake up in the morning and he'll talk about one neighbor's dog ate the other neighbor's cat. Then we'll deal with some other issue. And then once in a while, he'll get an LLC case. He'll get a real estate case, and he'll go to ChatGPT and look it up and try to figure out how to how to rule on this case. It's not a place you want to be in because that's very unsafe. So business wise, it's not great. For protection, private protection for yourself, it's great. This is where Nevada is between Delaware and Wyoming. Nevada is very similar to Wyoming, but they have a good court system,
mm,
which means that if you do need protection and you want to make sure that everything is going to be ruled properly, Wyoming's got the best rules. Nevada's got the second best rules. But we know all the rules in Nevada have already been through the court system and will hold up. We don't know what will happen when it goes through the court system in Wyoming. So
mm.
if you really want to be safe, personally, you go to Nevada. It's much more expensive, but if you have issues, that's the place to be. And for business, you go to Delaware.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Well, that's actually a lot of clarity right now to me. So, okay, great. I know we briefly talked about foreign investments. If you're raising capital from outside of the U.S., are there any preference to have LLCs in any of those states or no?
Typically, people call me because they have outside investors, they have foreign investors, and we just try to set them up with a Wyoming LLC because it's such a simple case and they're only LPs. Just get your best LLC possible and hit the road, start investing.
So Wyoming probably would be for foreign investments, I guess, right? Not Delaware.
Yeah, if you're talking about a foreigner investing in the U.S., you have somebody who wants to invest in one of your deals, we typically would set them up with a Wyoming LLC. Cheap, simple, easy, no strings attached, no frills, and they can just get their money wired over to you ASAP.
Is there anything easier with those states to, and I'm not sure if that comes to the play in LLC, being compliant with Patriot Act and all the other stuff, or that has nothing to do with LLC?
Right. Anything that's federally, LLCs are state. Anything that's federal doesn't change from state to state. That's just the federal government overseeing all 50 states with one rule that applies to all of them. It's like the BOI that we had and then we didn't have and then we still do have a little bit. That applied evenly to all states. It had nothing to do, it wasn't state specific. Now, some of the states are coming out with their own Transparency Act. So the transparency law may come into effect in certain states. Of course, New York, Massachusetts, California will be on the leading ones. And then each state will be different. And then you'll have to figure out how to navigate across all the states when you have a whole portfolio of LLCs.
So Transparency Act, exactly. That just happened recently, right? This is recently what just happened, right? We didn't have this before. And how does it change right now landscape for Wyoming and Nevada?
So they're fine because we had it went into effect in 2024, the Federal Transparency Act. But by the time the year was over, nobody was filing anymore because it was just about dead. Now New York has a Transparency Act that officially is going into effect on January 1st, but they may have an act, but they don't have their act together. So they can't exactly enforce any act. We don't know what the rule is. They don't know what the rule is. They don't really know what they're doing. So that's not going to happen. But certainly Wyoming and Nevada have no transparency acts and probably will never have one. So that's another reason why these states become much safer, because it's just one less hassle to deal with.
But probably that's depending on the climate, which administration is in power. And the question is, Transparency Act would be enacted at some point, on federal level. What does it disclose? Is it going to be like some kind of database of every single member? No, how does it look like?
So the federal act was anybody that had a substantial ownership interest, which meant either you had 25% ownership or you were a key officer.
Mhm.
Those two things, if you were a decision maker, that was the exact ruling. That definitely could come back with I don't want to say right or wrong administration, but with certain types of administration, it could come back. But you'll never have to worry about it in states like Nevada and Wyoming because they're all about anonymity.
Mhm.
That's what they're all about. And they're certainly not enacting any Transparency Act because that would, Wyoming doesn't have a lot of business and the state's trying to figure out how to generate money. So they found this great revenue generator called easy LLCs. So they make it really easy. They got no business in Wyoming, but they got lots and lots of LLCs over there collecting
Yeah.
money every year.
Makes sense. That's awesome. Amazing. All right. This is great. Yeah. Now let's lean in on another topic. I don't know how extensive we can go, but single member LLCs and multi-member LLCs. And from my from my own knowledge, sometimes they even I'm not sure if single member LLC can stand in the court, not piercing the corporate veil. I mean, maybe you can expand on that. And what is really so advantageous having multi-member LLC versus single member LLC? Just to get some clarity on that, because there's so much confusion, even in my part as well.
Right. Okay. So single member LLC is especially dangerous because remember, the whole point of an LLC is we say it's not you, it's an LLC.
Mhm.
Now, if you are the sole owner of the LLC, it's a little bit harder to come to court and, somebody tripped on your property and say, oh, it wasn't me, it was my LLC. Actually, it was you because you own the LLC and you're the only owner of the LLC. Once you have a partner, it becomes a whole different ball of wax because it's you, it's the partner. How can we go after you personally if the entity is not only you? There's another partner here too. And there are states, surprisingly enough, a state like Florida, which is generally a really good business state and even a good LLC state, but they do not respect a single member LLC. They have different rules for single member LLCs in terms of getting at that yacht of yours that you're so desperately trying to protect.
Mhm.
So the easy way to do it is just to have another member with you, and then you're no longer a single member LLC. But the single member LLC falls into another trap. When I'm a single member LLC, I usually don't do compliance and I usually commingle, right? If I have a partner, I got to be more careful. We open up a bank account, we're running a serious business. When it's a single member, it's not necessarily in many states or inherently the fact that it's single member, it's the fact that you're going to slip up. And if they see you commingling accounts, let's say I open up a single member LLC. Lots of people don't even write operating agreements. For what? It's me. I make the rules as I go along. What do I need an operating agreement for? So
Mhm.
somebody, so you come to court and they're going to say, okay, where's your operating agreement? Whoops, I don't have one. Oh, really? Then are you really an LLC? Not really. So we're going to take the yacht. Then they'll say, you got a bank account? Maybe, maybe not. But even if I do, I'm probably commingling all the money. I'm probably collecting rents to my bank account. I'm probably paying from my bank account to the LLC. My LLC is probably not properly capitalized. And these are all big red flags when you have a single member LLC. So a single member LLC is very much under scrutiny, and therefore they become dangerous either from a statute point of view or from a practical point of view. So adding a 2% member, your kid or somebody like that, that usually does the job, and you save yourself a whole lot of problems.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's clear for sure. I didn't know why, but now it's clear. It's probably biggest risk because you're gonna start commingling, and then you're not. Yeah, I mean, then your veil will be pierced in front of the judge.
Or because you are in a state that you don't know that doesn't respect single member LLCs, and then it's just
Yeah.
worthless
Good luck.
or almost worthless.
Makes sense. Now, what about Series LLCs? When I was doing a lot of housing and I was rehabbing and building houses, I think in my mind was just establishing it every single time a separate LLC was just too much hassle. So I remember opened a Series LLC, and every single time I buy a house, I just on my computer just add another designation, and we'll put a title in that designation. But when we're talking to right now, there still was only one bank account. There is always only one tax ID. It was years ago, so we never had to prove anything into the court. But I think running this type of operation, is it really dangerous? Illinois kind of allows to designate on the Series LLC every single property. But right now, thinking about that, I was always a single member of that designation. It probably has no stand, right, in the court. What's your take on it?
Don't tell us on the show who your lawyer is, because no self-respecting lawyer will let their client do a Series LLC. First of all, they're brand new. Nobody knows if they'll hold up in any court. And certainly when other states get involved, many states don't respect them. I could just tell you that's like one of those things that are in the books, but no smart businessman gets involved with Series LLCs because nobody knows what will happen. It's too risky and it's not worth it.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Oh yeah, that was a lot of information to
We
this
got a
day.
lot to talk about. After this podcast is over, me and you have a lot to talk about.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So on that note, how did you start in LLCs? And I understand you were an attorney in New York, but right now is main thing is LLCs. How did it start? Maybe we can lean in a little bit in your story. How it came about that the LLCs is your only main thing right now.
So I was never, I did software, I did international marketing, I ran a few companies, and then COVID came and I was sitting at home and my wife wasn't too happy with me. So she started sending out my resume. And I got a phone call one day from a company, a real estate company, and they said they'd love to meet with me because I'm a lawyer, I'm a CPA, and they're starting a new division within their company and they'd like me to head it. So I went down, I spoke to them, and next thing I knew, I was, for the first time in my life, I always wanted to be in real estate. And for the first time in my life, I was actually in real estate. And we were doing the back office work for a 1031 company. We were drafting the documents. And so I was sort of getting a glimpse of what was going on in real estate. And what fascinated me, because 1031s are pretty complicated, and structure makes a big difference in 1031. So we're drafting all these documents based on knowledge we have without really understanding structures. I obviously, my background, that wasn't good enough for me. So I really dived into understanding how real estate companies are structured. And I ended up learning a lot about LLCs. And then another company wanted to start an LLC department. So they hired me to help them with to grow out their LLCs. And that's where I am today, LLCs.
That's awesome. You mentioned 1031. There were a number of times I had a question which I want to get educated a little bit more. So let's say in syndication, you're buying a property, you're raising money from 5 investors. One investor comes in with 1031 money. What's the best approach to structure this deal and still not blow up the deal in some very complicated way? We're doing Reg D. 4 investors are traditional capital. And one is bringing 1031. So we need to we need to structure the way so once he gets out with 1031, he still has the benefit in 1031. Any like rule of thumbs, how do we do this?
Yeah, this is very tricky and it's very important
Mm-hmm.
because the rule of 1031 is that the company that sells is the company that has to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So he cannot dump his money into your partnership and then buy that property, because that means buying into a partnership is not called spending 1031 money the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So what he has to do, that partner has to come in as a tick. So you would have to set up the two companies. Your group would be tick one, his investment will be tick two, because tick means he actually owns the property himself. So his company would own a tick interest in that property, and you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
actually be partners. Now, that becomes a little bit tricky because that means it has to be run as a separate company. He can't be in your operating agreement. He has to do his own homework. He has to own the property, not just become part of your partnership either
Mm-hmm.
way. So what you do want to do once he comes in as a tick, as soon as possible, you want to get out of that tick and roll it into a partnership somehow. And that's what your attorney will help you do.
So as soon as and that will so you do an acquisition with a tick, but as soon as the acquisition is completed, then you roll back into the partnership, right?
I believe so. And that's tricky. You have to see how you do that without getting into trouble.
Yeah, without blowing up his 1031, obviously.
Right. Right.
Okay, makes sense. Well, that's that was a lot of information, and I learned a lot in this half an hour. If our viewers and listeners want to get in touch with you, get your services or consultation for LLCs or whatever we can help, where can they find you?
The easiest way is to find me on LinkedIn, just to DM me. I'm Tzvi, Tzvi, LLC, Weiser, Tzvi LLC Weiser. You could even click on the link over there and just set up a consultation without even letting me know. I will meet that way. I'm always happy to talk. I'm always happy to help people, whether they will be clients, whether they won't be clients, answer questions. I'm here for them.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. That was really, really helpful. And anyone has a question about LLC, definitely Tzvi is the guy to reach out. And thanks for listening, guys. And thank you very much, Tzvi, for being guest. And I'm looking forward to see you again at some time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Value Builder podcast. For more strategies, stories, and episodes, head to valuebuilder.co or subscribe on your favorite app. Always make it better than you found it and keep adding value. See you in the next one.